Hi and welcome back to Camille's Country Kitchen. I am Camille and today we will be making 3 recipes. I'm going to show you how to make some basil pesto and beef empanadas for a snack or your freezer. And I'm also making another freezer meal for my freezer today, and it's going to be the white chicken chili. All right, let's go ahead and get started with the basil pesto. Let me show you everything that you will need for that. Okay, for today's basil pesto, you will need, of course, some basil. This is fresh basil from my garden, some Parmesan cheese, pine nuts or walnuts, some fresh garlic, and some olive oil. And preferably if you have a food processor. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Don't forget your water. All right, let's go ahead and get started. So you will need 2 cups of your fresh basil. Now when you're taking these off, unlike the cilantro, you want to make sure that you don't get any of the stems. They're not good to process. So take all of the leaves off your basil. Okay, go ahead and put it in the food processor. Along with your pine nuts. So I've got both today. I'm going to be making more than one batch, so I'm going to do pine nuts and I'm also going to do walnuts for my, and I forgot to grab the salt. We'll just need a pinch of that. All right, I'm going to go ahead and put in 2 tablespoons of pine nuts. Like I said, you can use walnuts here. Pine nuts are pretty expensive. 4 something, 6 something. You get so much more. So it's definitely worth getting the walnuts. And of course you can make pestos out of a bunch of different things. My favorite is the basil pesto, and I actually grew enough last year that I had enough for the whole season. I just ran out last week. Well, let me get some scissors. Okay, you will also need, let's see, a half a cup of freshly grated Parmesan cheese. As you can see, I am using a little help from the grocery store here. I'm going to be making a lot of pesto, and I don't mind this Parmesan. I use all different kinds. Put a pinch of salt in here, and then you will need 2 cloves of garlic. Ooh. If the cloves are smaller, use 3. But these are a pretty good size, so I'll just need 2. You definitely want to take the peels off of them, but you don't have to really chop them up. Food processor is going to do all of that for you. Okay. All right, at this point, you shouldn't have put your cheese in like I just did. Cheese is the last thing to go in, so we're going to go ahead and pulse this. Probably that was about 10 to 15 times. And then we are going to pulse it and drizzle our olive oil, our half a cup of olive oil in while it's pulsing. Okay, let me give that a taste. Perfect. Okay, let me show you what I do next. I'm going to continue to make the rest of my basil pesto, but I'm going to show you my next step right here. I've prepared these little cups because this is how I freeze mine, and I'm going to go ahead and fill these little cups. I think they are 2-ounce cups, and I have one 4-ounce cup. I'm going to fill all of these little cups, and then we're going to stick them in the freezer. And it takes about an hour or two in the freezer, and then once they're done, you can either pop them out of these little cups and store them in a gallon size freezer bag, or I have little tops for these. I think I got these at Smart and Final, but I have seen them at Amazon. I'll try to find a link so we can link them down below. But you put a top on them, throw them in a gallon size freezer bag. They'll last the whole season until next growing season. So 6 months to a year. All right, let me go ahead and get this all filled, and I'll show you what that looks like. All right, I did a double batch, and I got 12 cups of pesto. Each cup, it has a little bit, it's like a heaping tablespoon. This one has 3 tablespoons in it. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and freeze this for about 2 hours, and then I'll take it out and package it up. I don't put the tops on it until after it's been frozen, just in case there's any condensation in there. I don't want any ice crystals to fall on top of it. All right, let's get on to our next recipe. All right, for the beef empanadas, you will need a pound of ground beef, some salt, pepper, some oregano, some cumin, paprika, onion, and garlic. A little bit of, I got probably a little over a tablespoon of tomato paste. I'm gonna put some peas in mine, and there is a recipe that comes with this, but I'm gonna use these canned biscuits and show you a shortcut. All right, let's go ahead and get started on our ground beef. All right, to the pan, I've gone ahead and added a little bit of the onion. Go ahead and add the rest. I'll add the garlic in a bit. Oh, and it's not a day of cooking unless you get burnt. Whew. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and throw in the ground beef. I'm using 80-20 here, so I will have to render off some of that fat. All right, I'm going to add my garlic here. And that was 2 cloves of garlic I just added in there. All right, we want a teaspoon of oregano. Teaspoon of cumin. And a half a teaspoon of paprika. All right, I'm going to add a little bit of salt and pepper. I just take a paper towel and soak up the fat. It's just much easier to get rid of it. Let me get one more paper towel. I shouldn't have put in any of the olive oil. I don't usually work with the real fatty hamburgers. Okay. From here, we want to, I have some beef bouillon. And I'm just going to sprinkle on a half a teaspoon. Because you're going to want to add about a half a cup of water here. If you have beef broth, definitely you can use that. I didn't have any made today. All right, and at this time, this is where you're going to add your 1 tablespoon of tomato paste. I usually get a great big container and I freeze mine in these little cups or in the plastic. And then I just take it out as I need it in the freezer. All right, I've got probably, I'd say a half a cup of peas here. You can add as many or as little as you want. I'm going to add, well, I'm only adding a quarter of a cup. I just want a little bit. All right, as long as that water is absorbed and your meat is already cooked down, then this is ready to go. All right, let me show you. That's what it should look like. We're going to go ahead and cool that down. And then I'll show you how to roll it up. All right, so now we are going to roll the biscuits. I'm just using buttermilk biscuits. Attached to the recipe is the attached to the recipe is the instructions to make the dough. I am going to just use cheater dough and use these biscuits today. So what you do is you put out a little bit of flour. And you want to roll these out just a little. All right, and then you want to put about a tablespoon in each one, maybe a little more than a tablespoon, about a heaping tablespoon. And then you just want to fold them over. And you can do a fancy fold on these, but I'm just going to use a fork just to crimp them shut. So nothing comes out. All right, that's what that looks like. Let me do one more for you. Now, according to the instructions on the recipe, this makes 15. I am only making 8 today because that's the amount of biscuits that I have. So anything I have left over, I'm either going to just cook it separately or I am going to freeze it for next time when I have another can of biscuits, which is probably what I'll do because I do not feel like whipping up any biscuits today. All right, I'll bring you back as soon as these are ready to go in the oven. All right, now that we have all of the empanadas made, I have made a egg wash. It's just egg and about a teaspoon of water. Now with a pastry brush, or any kind of brush actually, we're just gonna brush the egg wash over top. It just helps it to get a nice brown golden color. Okay, we're going to put this in a preheated oven at 400 for 20 to 25 minutes until these are golden brown. And I'll show you what they look like when they're done. All right, friends, this is what they look like when they're done. For our white chicken chili, you will need a rotisserie chicken or 2 to 3 chicken breasts already cooked, some corn, some paprika, oregano, cumin, some chicken stock, a 7-ounce can of diced chilies. I'm using 2 4-ounce, so I'm going to have a little bit extra, but I'm going to add it all anyway. An 8-ounce package of cream cheese, 2 cloves of garlic, and some fresh cilantro, and some salt and pepper. All right, let's go ahead and get started. All right, we just need to prepare our rotisserie chicken. Any of the bones or the skin that I'm not going to use, I'm going to save that for bone broth. And I'm just going to cut this into chunks. We need about 1.5 cups of this chicken. And I would suggest that you cut the whole thing up and use it for another recipe, or you can use it later on for something else, and it freezes very well. So you can have something on hand for later when you want to whip something up. I'm going to use a combination of both white meat and dark meat for my chili. And I'm going to use half of this rotisserie chicken for this recipe. Okay, to my pan I have added my onion and my garlic. We're just going to saute that a little bit. While that is cooking, I'm just going to open my other 2 cans. Okay, now that the onions are translucent, I'm going to go ahead and pour in my chicken stock. I have about 2.5 cups. Maybe 4. Now this will serve 6 to 8 people. We're going to go ahead and add the chicken. Pretty much dump and go from here. I'm going to add a 15-ounce can of corn. I have drained that. My 2 cans of the diced chilies. We have 1.5 teaspoons of ground cumin, half a teaspoon of paprika, half a teaspoon of oregano. It calls for coriander and cayenne. I'm leaving those both out because I'm going to add fresh cilantro at the end. And coriander is just the cilantro seed. I'm adding some salt and pepper. We're just going to bring this up to a boil before we add our cream cheese. And before I forget, because I didn't have it out in the ingredients, you need a 15-ounce can. Actually, you need two 15-ounce cans of the Great Northern beans, or any bean of your choice. I would choose a white bean. Rinse them and then add them right to your pot. Okay, now that our pot is up to boiling, I tasted it for seasonings and I added a lot more salt and probably about another teaspoon of the cumin. And now that it's boiling, we're going to go ahead and cube up. Yeah, I don't know if you can see that. There we go. Cubed up all of the cream cheese, and we're going to go ahead and add that to the pot. That is what's going to thicken this chili up. And I had just diced my cilantro, so that's what the little green flecks were in my cream cheese. We're just going to stir this until it's thickened. All right, this is what it looks like when it's done. I added the fresh cilantro to the top. Now that we are finished making all our goodies for today, I got 2 quarts from my freezer. We ended up having some of this for our dinner tonight. We ate most of the empanadas. They are delicious, so good. I hope you try those. They are great when served with some sour cream and some salsa. And the white chicken chili, I added just some cheese and fresh cilantro on top with some sour cream and served it with some chips. Fantastic. And now I have some to pull out for another meal when I have nothing else to cook. Or I forgot to take something out, and you can just pull it out and heat it up in quick, easy dinner. And then I have all the pesto that I made, and that will just live in my freezer until I need that. So if you like all the recipes you see here today, I hope you try them, I hope you make them. And I am glad you stopped by today. And if you haven't yet, please like and subscribe. And we will see you on the next one. Have a good one.